hey, it's hardcore sustainable. So, one of the things that I've been pretty critical of in the past is the typical homesteading model, where you have a family living out in the middle of nowhere, trying to be as self-sufficient as they can on a big piece of land. And there's something to be said for that, but what I find is that those people tend to have to buy a lot of their own stuff. They have to have the machinery, they have to buy their own truck, their own tractor, their own everything to make that self-sufficient life work for them. And to me, that's not very sustainable. That's less than ideal. And they also don't have neighbors that are close around them so that they can share resources and cooperate with them. To me, a better model is one like Dancing Rabbit, of course, where you have people around you, but if you're not out in the country and not in an eco-village like we are at Dancing Rabbit, there are things that you can do in an urban setting just with your neighbors and on your typical urban lot. And today we're going to go visit Hummingbird Hideout, which is in Gulfport, Florida. And instead of your typical urban lot that might have a lawn and maybe some ornamental trees and plants, they've got all these systems set up to make their urban lot more self-sufficient. They've got chickens, they've got water catchment, they've got composting operation, they've got food production, they've got permaculture plantings and a food forest. So it's very inspiring, and they're implementing new systems all the time. And so we're going to go and get a tour of that. And really there was so much material that I ended up cutting it into 2 videos. And in the first video, we're going to just talk about sort of the sustainable systems that they have set up on their property. And then in the second one, they're going to give us a tour of the food forest and the permaculture system. So getting back to the advantages of having neighbors close around you that you can cooperate with, in an urban setting, you do have neighbors, and you can share resources with them, you can share equipment and tools, you don't have to have your own everything. And then you can do things like community composting. So you can have one compost pile, you can sell chicken eggs to your neighbor, and then maybe they can be producing something that they can trade with you for the chicken eggs. So that's kind of what a lot of what's going on at Hummingbird Hideout. So I visited Hummingbird Hideout back in February when everything was green and lush, and Scott, Mallory, and Stefan were happy to give us a tour, and so that's what this footage is going to show us. They're going to take us around the urban homesteading community that they have there in Gulfport, Florida.
Scott Bitterly, and we are at the Hummingbird Hideout, which is a urban to mid-urban co-living homestead in Gulfport, Florida, which is right adjacent to St. Petersburg in Tampa Bay, Florida. And we have 5 residents with 1 guest currently, a cat, and 7 chickens.
Wow, nice.
And
lots of fruit trees and
lots of fruit trees, gardens, rain catchment systems. We're a certified native wildlife habitat and a community compost center. So people come and drop off their compost and food scraps, and we'll compost it for them and turn it into soil. So this is the rain cube. This is our rainwater catchment system, and the components are a 250-gallon IBC liquid container, food grade container. Then we've wrapped it in black plastic to prevent algae growth, and it has, from the gutters off of a metal roof, we have a leaf eater here, which collects the first bunch of debris. Coming through this pipe, we have a pantyhose filter, so that collects another bunch of sediment, and then it'll go in here. We have a level gauge in there. We're about a quarter full right now during the winter, and then we have an overflow valve here, so if it gets too full during the summer, it'll drain out into the veggie bed we have growing here. Then down here we have our main valve. We have another filter here, and we have a gauge that monitors our overall use and individual use if we'd like to measure that. We have a diverter so that we can just fill buckets and use it for all kinds of things, and then the other one goes to a drip irrigation system that feeds this veggie bed.
Okay.
We've also been using it for our sink inside and running it through a Berkey water filter for drinking water.
And is this the only cube that you have on your
Yeah, this is
here?
the only cube. We have a couple of smaller 55-gallon buckets around, and in the future we plan on installing a 750-gallon slimline tank on the other side of the house that we would like to pump and filter for a whole house system for this building here. That is raincube.io. You can check out. We have the care guide that the creator developed here. There's also a book coming out for it, and the long-term goal is to install a lot of these units in different homes and commercial facilities, and then track the usage through a web-based app. You could turn on and off your watering system through your phone and keep track overall of how much water you've used per month over the years, that type of thing.
Wow.
Rhode Island Reds laying an egg for us. So this is our hen home. We got 7 chickens right now. We have a nice chicken run around the house for them. We feed them organic grain bought from the store and lots of fresh compost. So they're our first round of soil making.
Composting, yeah.
So we give them all of our fresh compost. We also have our worm bin here as well. So generating some worms and some fresh, some really healthy soil. We get about eggs. Yeah, we trade our eggs as well for local honey and for other for the lawnmower from the neighbor across the street, and try to use it as a good little healthy currency. And we also sell some to our friends as well to pay for the chicken feed. We've done pretty good this month, especially. I think Yasmin has been selling a good amount of eggs, just enough so we still have some to eat, but then it pays pretty much in full for their feed.
Oh,
So
good.
that's been a good little system that we worked out. Hey, Dave. All right, so we are in the dry cabin known as the goat house, and this is our dry bathroom. So we have our Nature's Head composting toilet with a liquid diverter. It's about a $1,200 unit, what I think is top of the line, with most of the features that you could get on any composting toilet. So the diverter diverts the liquid, which we empty once a week, and we'll put that on our compost pile or directly on our fruit trees. And the solid waste lasts us maybe about a month and a half to 2 months. It's got a drying medium of coconut coir or wood shavings, and it's got a hatch on the side here. It's got a fan that's constantly running to dry, and has a little vent that goes up and outside, so it's constantly drying the solids and taking some of the odors away. Then we have our water system here for our sink, so we'll fill this up. What I've been filling from the rain cube goes into that water tank, and I've rigged up the hose and pump system, so we have a little foot pump here and gives us just enough water that we use for brushing our teeth, washing our face, washing our hands, and that drains out into the chicken coop out back. So we've been conserving lots of water, and so this house is only using water from rainwater.
Wow.
So we've been filtering for drinking water through the Berkey filter and using it in our sink.
Nice, nice. And this house is basically just like a living space. There's not a kitchen in here. I don't.
There's no kitchen in here. We have a small kitchenette. We could function. We have a small fridge. We have a little countertop. We have a little boiler that we could use. a toaster oven, you know, so we can do pretty much everything over here, but we share the kitchen with the rest of the group. And we just have little snacks and stuff over here. But yeah, so this is 500 square feet. This is called the Goat House, and Yasmina and I have been living here for about 10 months now, and it's plenty enough space for us. We get a little bit of privacy, but still also live in the community. So here we are at our outdoor shower and composting toilet stall. We just built this out in the past couple of months. Nice house project, all hands on deck for this one. We did have a smaller shower, but it was a little drafty during the winter and didn't lend us much privacy. So we rebuilt it, reconfigured everything. So we have our outdoor sink for produce and yard projects. And then we have the shower, as you can see in here, that we all enjoy. We do have a shower in the main house, but this is our preferred mode of scrubbing. That really enjoyable outdoor showers with the birds singing and the moon shining. So this is all salvaged cedar from a house built maybe in the 70s.
Oh, wow.
And
that's great.
This is our outdoor composting toilet that we use regularly. Just a simple bucket and seat system with wood shavings as the coverage.
Like the human manure kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's great.
And this also looks great at night with the rope lighting.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think I've seen it at night. It does look really cool that way.
Actually, Mallory, you want to give a tour of the house?
Sure. I've been composting almost my whole life, but I was trained by the Pinellas Community Composting Alliance. Maybe 3 or 4 months ago. The Alliance is a new initiative in Pinellas County that encourages neighbors to help each other compost.
Okay.
So the idea is to have some kind of receptacle, if you're a community compost site like us, where your neighbors can drop off their food scraps and their kitchen waste, and then you compost it for them. So you also can get time bank credits for dropping off compost and for doing compost for the St. Pete Time Bank. So we've been doing this several months, but we also are able to generate a lot of quantity of compost by picking up from some of the local businesses in St. Pete. So we pick up from several coffee shops, we pick up from Mother Kombucha, which is a kombucha company here in St. Pete. And so we get a lot of coffee grounds, a lot of tea, spent tea, even the scobies they give us to compost. So we have our compost piles numbered, and we regularly take the temperature of the compost so that we can ensure that it's composting at a good temperature from 131 to 150 or 60. I haven't seen it get quite that high, but that's the optimal range for thermal composting. And the benefit of thermal composting is that then your compost isn't going anaerobic and creating methane.
Okay.
So we want to avoid creating methane and greenhouse gases through compost by keeping it at the right temperature. And I can show you our compost thermometer, but it's a thermometer about this long so that it can reach the interior of the pile and let us know what's cooking down there. So I can show you this. This is the last one that I finished building, so the one that I'm currently adding to is behind the workshop. I've seen a lot of black soldier fly larvae in these, which are really rapid composters. We keep the plastic on top just to keep from too much rain getting into the compost, because we also want to regulate the moisture level and keep it so that it's not dripping wet, but that it's moist.
Yeah.
If anything, I would say this is maybe a little too wet, but it's fine. And I don't know if you can tell.
Smells like coffee grounds.
Yeah, with the camera, but I can see a little steam coming off of it.
Oh, you can.
Let me grab the thermometer. Looks like it's right about 130, if not a little below. And I've noticed that whenever I turn it, especially when I turn it for the first time, the temperature goes much higher.
Okay.
So this one we built, but we haven't turned it yet. So it's around 130, which is good. but when we turn it, and all we do to turn it is, because we have it in these fences, just like rounds, we can unhook the round, take the fencing off, and then we just rotate. So we'll move this one into this spot and this one into another spot.
Okay.
And just pitchfork it over, so it's really easy to turn.
Yeah.
That's why I love this method versus like a 3-bin composter. That's also why we number them, because I keep records of the temperature. So I want to not get them confused because they move every so often.
That's
And
it. It does seem like a really simple way of
Yeah.
composting with this,
Yeah.
with the fencing, the
Yeah.
woven wire.
The best is if you can use 1/2-inch hardware cloth.
Okay.
But it's kind of expensive, and I already had
Yeah.
this, so that's why we lined it with cardboard.
I see.
Because we're using a lot of coffee grounds and spent tea, it falls through these cracks really easily. But if
Okay.
you have hardware cloth, then it's better. So I'm gonna try to find some.
I see.
So this is number 1. This is our oldest pile, and you can see it looks a lot more like soil. You really don't see any food waste in here.
Yeah.
It's also a lot cooler, like that other one when I was digging into it, almost like hurt my hand because it was really hot. This one is not that hot. And you're supposed to turn it when it gets below 130 or when it gets above 160, I think.
Uh-huh.
So this one's at only 90 degrees in the middle, so it's time to turn it. And I think it'll probably be the last turn for it because it's pretty much done.
Yeah.
This one's been turned about 4 times.
Yeah, and obviously
And it
it's
shrinks.
shrunk. Yeah.
Yeah, it shrinks a lot. It's just a great way for us to make soil, and then we don't have to buy it for our garden. And I think it's a lot higher quality than what you can buy. And we're also recycling, and our neighbors are getting to give us their food waste too for recycling. And then we sometimes share the produce with them too. So it's a good circle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. As you can see from Hummingbird Hideout, you don't have to live in the country to practice self-sufficiency. You can cooperate with your neighbors and grow a lot of your own food even on a small city lot. Next time, Mallory and Stefan will give us a tour of the food forest they've planted at Hummingbird Hideout. In only a couple years, they've been able to start harvesting from their permaculture plantings. Check out the Hardcore Sustainable Facebook page for more regular updates, and also don't forget to subscribe to the channel, share and give a thumbs up to the video. I'll see you next time.